Today I want to be talking about something very controversial. It's actually why I left Greek Orthodoxy, and it has to do with the Old Testaments and apocrypha books. So as you can see right here, I have a few books in front of me, and I kind of put them in order in the way that I think they go, and I'll explain why. So first we have the Adam and Eve Ethiopian guise Old Testament. And this, if you actually study this, it's the oldest record we have of the Old Testament and apocryphas, the Ethiopian guise language. Next, we have the Septuagint, which is the Greek version. I used to be Greek Orthodox. Next, we have what I think is the original first century gospel. It's the Gospel of the Nazarene. It's a first century Aramaic text that is verbatimly similar to, actually identical to the Gospel of the Holy 12. If you search the Gospel of the Holy 12, it's very controversial. They say it was actually made up in a dream. That's just recently, and it was written by this guy right here, Reverend J. Owsley. But if you read this and then you read the confirmed first century version, it's the same, and you'll know it's the truth once you read it from the heart, because archetypically we have the truth in us, and there's only one truth, and you'll know it. Second, we have the Clementine homilies, and I'm going through basically in order by years. So basically we have Old Testament, so this is in the BCs. You know, this one came first, this came second. Now we're into first century, second century. Now we have the Clementine homilies, and when you read these and you cross-reference the text, you get a feeling for what they're talking about. It's clearly talking about a gospel that associates with the Holy 12 Nazarene. It's the same one. It talks about abstaining from eating animal flesh, drinking alcohol, and getting back to the law. It even talks about reincarnation and other first century subjects like that. Next, you have the Q gospel. This is not really a gospel, but it basically references that there is a missing text, and basically it's a missing Matthew. And I believe that the Gospel of the Holy 12 and the Gospel of Nazarene, basically the same text, different title, is the Q source, which is German. Q is means source in German. So that's what they use this for. So I would definitely check into the Gospel of the Holy 12, Gospel of the Nazarenes. Actually, this is one of the oldest versions. They stopped publishing them in 1996, at least this version. It goes back first century. There's a ton of first century bishops and saints that quoted from the Nazarene in the Gospel of the Holy 12 text. So much so that you can actually rebuild the entire gospel using them. And again, if you read the Q source in the Clementine homily literature and you really read it, it's unmistakable. Like, you will know. Here's just a cheaper copy on Amazon. I believe it's just $12. I spent $100 on this one a while back, and I've seen it now used for $6,000. So find that interesting. Never gonna sell it. So yeah, we already discussed this one. Over here we have the Nag Hammadi and the Dead Sea Scrolls. Once you read those, you'll have again hints to a vegan Christ, and you will find hints to that again in the original apocrypha. When you go to the Greek versions, this one, the Septuagint, that's when you start to see a lot of sacrifice. And I'm going to show you verbatim text on each. It's not verbatim because it's not the original Greek, nor is it the original guise, but you can see, and you can see the literature and make your own thoughts to that. But again, so if you read like the Gospel of Thomas, it hints to a vegan gospel. There's just many things in the Nag Hammadi and the Dead Sea Scrolls that hint to a vegan Yeshua. So after that, we have the Greek Study Bible, we have the Greek New Testament, and then we have the Missing Saints, Missing Miracles, which actually led me to researching why are there missing saints, why are there missing miracles, why are there missing teachings of Christ? Shouldn't they be in these texts? Well, that's when I learned that the New Testament from the Greeks is actually the Codex Sinaiticus, which is not the original gospel. It is an edited version from Constantine in the year 325 AD. When you cross-reference the New Testament, aka the Greek Codex Sinaiticus, with the Gospel of the Holy 12, the main differences is Christ is more loving in the original. He has love and compassion for all, even the animals. When it comes to the Greeks, it all changed to blood sacrifice. And I'm willing to debate anybody on this subject, and I'm going to show you some literature coming up shortly. So, again, this is just the Greek Orthodox Study Bible, the New Testament, and then you have St. George right here that led me to questioning the whole operation. So next, I will be showing you the offerings of Cain and Abel and why I left Greek Orthodoxy. Starting with the original oldest text of the Old Testament in the Adam and Eve apocrypha, the combat of Adam against Satan. Okay, so first in the Cain and Abel story from the original Old Testament, combat of Adam against Satan. Once you open up, this would be Genesis 4 in the Septuagint, but in the older scriptures, they didn't have all these chapters. So, as you can see, this is the book of Adam and Eve, and I have the pages referenced, so we'll just start right here. But as for Abel, he set up stones that were near at hand, and upon that he offered up his gift, with a heart humbled and free of guile, which means to be deceived in Hebrew. And it's the same word that is used for NASA today. That's another thing to look into. Cain was then standing by the altar on which he had offered up his gift, and he cried unto God to accept his offering. But God did not accept it from him, neither did a divine fire come down to consume his offering. But he remained standing over against the altar out of humor and wrath, looking toward his brother Abel to see if God would accept his offering or not. And Abel prayed unto God to accept his offering. Then a divine fire came down and consumed his offering, and God smelled the sweet savor of his offering, because Abel loved him and rejoiced in him. So God accepted Abel's offering and did not accept Cain. Now, if we read up here, but Adam grieved and held his peace and said not a word. Then on the morrow Adam said unto Cain his son, take of thy sheep. So he's telling Cain, his son, to take thy sheep. So he's testing him, young and good, and offer them up unto thy God. And I will speak to thy brother, aka Abel, to make unto his God an offering of corn. See? So he's telling Cain to offer his sheep, young and good, and then Abel to offer his corn. Okay, so remember that. This is the oldest text before the Septuagint Greeks. And I'm Greek saying this. They both hearkened to their father, Adam, and they took their offering and offered them up onto the mountains by the altar. And we just read what happens. God accepted Abel's and did not accept Cain's offering of the sheep. And this is because he was proud. His heart was full of guile and fraud. As you can see down here, and Abel prayed unto God to accept his offering. Then a divine fire came down and consumed his offering, and God smelled the sweet savor of his offering of corn, because Abel loved him and rejoiced in him. And because God was very pleased with him, he sent him an angel and lit of light in the figure of a man who had partaken of his offering, because he had smelled the sweet savor of his offering. And they confronted Abel and strengthened his heart. But Cain was looking on all that took place at his brother's offering, and was wroth on account of it. Now I'm going to show you the Septuagint, the later Old Testament, and what it does to the sweet savory of aroma, and what the new offer is. So for this, you're going to need your Septuagint, the Greek Old Testament, or any Old Testament that you get today. It's all from the Greeks. And you're going to go to Genesis 4 and read, "And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and brought forth Cain, and said, I have gained a man through God. And she again bore his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep." See, now Abel's the keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. A little switcheroo right here. "And it was so after some time that Cain brought of the fruits of the earth a sacrifice to the Lord, and Abel also brought of the firstborn of the sheep." You see where this is? So back to the Adam and Eve apocrypha, as you can see right here, he said also to Abel, "Take thou of thy sowing, and make an offering, and bring it to God, that he may forgive thy wickedness and thy sin." So Abel's going to offer fruits. "Take, O my son, of the fruits of the sowing, and make an offering unto God, that he may forgive thy wickedness and sin." So Abel's offering the fruit. Now you have over here how Cain, "But as to Cain, he took no pleasure in offering. But after much anger on his father's part, he offered up his gift once, and when he did offer up, his eyes was on the offering he made, and he took the smallest of his sheep." Some other texts say the weakest of his flock for an offering, and his eyes was again on it. Therefore God did not accept his offering, because his heart was full of murderous thoughts. This is the original Adam and Eve Ethiopian geese. This is quite the contrary to the Greek version, where God is now pleased with the sacrificial offering of the dead sheep. Abel was the ones who offered the fruits, and God was pleased in the original. Now Cain is offering the fruits, and God is displeased and is pleased with Abel's offering of the flesh. People have to look into this.